Welcome to FRCMedia News. I'm Keith Tebow. Thank you for joining us for this special edition of the show as we look back at some of the top news stories in Fall River for 2021. As always, there's a lot to review. For the second year in a row, Fall River, Massachusetts, the United States, and the world continue to be focused on recovering from and dealing with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's get some perspective now as to how it continues to impact the city of Fall River. At the close of 2020, there were just under 8,000 COVID cases reported in the city. As we head into 2022, that number is now over 20,000. Over 12,000 cases were reported in Fall River in 2021. 225 died in Fall River in 2020, and as we end this year, we have added 189 more for a total of 414. We started 2021 with continued restrictions on businesses and mask mandates in place. Hope spread with the approval and initial distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine last December. The rollout of the vaccine in Massachusetts was conducted in phases and in order of priority. Frustrations rose with the limited availability of vaccine doses across the country.
Vaccinating 4 million adults in Massachusetts as the doses are allocated by the federal government is not going to be easy. But be assured we'll make every effort to get this done as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Common sense says that we should prioritize the most vulnerable among us and those who keep our healthcare system operating, and we can only move as fast as the federal government delivers the vaccine. Everyone has shown tremendous patience throughout this long ordeal, and many are justifiably running out of it. I am too. And that's why this can't happen fast enough.
Soon, approval of new vaccines came into play and more doses were made available. The senior population was among the first group eligible to get vaccinated. The city began hosting a regional vaccination clinic at Bristol Community College in early February, to the delight and relief of many.
I was part of phase 1, and vaccines are tough to get. I'm just elated to finally feel a little bit safe in the middle of this pandemic. In November, I got my flu vaccine, and this was just like getting the flu vaccine. A little pinch, you're done and over with.
I know some people don't want to take it, but I figure it's better than nothing. And, it's on the safe side, and we'll keep wearing the mask and keep going. That's all.
I know that I have the vaccine, and I'm on the road to protecting myself and those around me. And even though I'm not really looking forward to getting the next shot, I know it's for my own good.
By the end of April, everyone 16 and older were eligible to receive the vaccine. In the fall, COVID vaccine boosters became widely available, and now those 5 and up can get vaccinated. Massachusetts is one of the highest vaccinated states in the country. Fall River, however, has fallen below the state average for vaccinations. 64% of city residents have received at least one dose of the vaccine, with 58% fully vaccinated. The state is seeing fully vaccinated rates at over 70%.
Have somebody who's a trusted community member, talk to them about getting the vaccine and trying to educate them that way. Not everybody has, a comfort level with the government or healthcare, facilities. So we really want to try and meet people where they're at and educate them that the vaccines are safe, that they're effective, and that we really all need to be vaccinated for us to kind of get through this pandemic.
As we progress through the spring, more businesses reopened fully and mask mandates were loosened. Businesses explored the option of imposing a vaccination mandate for their workers, something Governor Baker was not willing to consider statewide.
Still a free country the last time I checked. And my company, our company, the executive branch of state government, is a lot different than many other businesses in Massachusetts. Do we have hundreds of thousands of businesses? We certainly have tens of thousands of businesses. I think we have hundreds of thousands. We have hundreds of thousands of businesses of all different shapes and sizes that do all kinds of different things that are spread across 351 cities and towns. The idea that we should have one set of rules for all of them as we come back out of this thing just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Residents and businesses saw more financial support from the federal government with the passage of the American Rescue Plan Act in March. For the local business community, federal aid helped keep doors open.
Had it not been for some of those programs, whether it was the EIDL, whether it was the PPP, had it not been for some of those programs, we would not be surprised if we picked up the newspaper a year later and half of the small businesses in our region had closed their doors.
Yeah.
That's how important all of that was in order to keep this economy moving. The stimulus checks are wonderful because people have a tendency, thankfully, to recycle those into the economy and to support those businesses. And we strongly encourage people when they receive those dollars, to spend them wisely, but to spend them locally, and make sure that we do what we can to continue to support and prop up those small businesses.
Fall River schools began the year in a hybrid model of in-person and remote learning. Before the end of the school year in June, when more people were vaccinated, more students returned to the classroom. When classes resumed in the fall, all students returned to full in-person instruction with a mask mandate in place.
We're looking forward to a full year of in-person learning. That's number one priority. I think that our district's been through a lot, like every other district. It's important for us to stabilize our schools, to make sure that everybody feels comfortable being back, and that we work towards a successful new year. Certainly we know that kids have been away. There's been interrupted learning. We're going to do our best to teach forward, as well as to provide supports for students with their lagging skills. We have staff that's second to none, so I have no doubt that we're going to be doing that as a district.
We definitely are concerned, very concerned about the Delta variant, the numbers, what's going to happen. Our kids have been informed that they have to leave their masks on. We have to socially distance. We are taking it very seriously. But truthfully, we're kind of just waiting for that shoe to drop when school gets shut down. And we're
go back to remote
right,
learning.
and we're just trying to be prepared for that to happen and be flexible. They have a lot of anxiety because of all the newness of the whole situation, but they're so excited to be in public school again
And make friends and
I feel like
community.
Yes, definitely. I feel like that will be the main way that they get through this year, is being so excited about having a classroom again, and we're really talking that up to help them get through the anxiety of it.
This year, we heard more personal stories of the toll the pandemic took on our lives. It hit home for us here at FRCmedia. Reporter and videographer Denise Pumaguaye contracted COVID in November of 2020 and continues to suffer with the effects of what is called long-haul COVID. Some of her symptoms included partial paralysis and severe brain fog.
I mean, I am nowhere near what I used to do before. If I am out for like 4 hours, that means that I may need to rest for the next day or two, and that's part of the syndrome itself. You just are exhausted most of the time. I still need to take daily at least one nap, but it's an improvement from the daily 2 naps that I used to take before.
We followed the science of the pandemic all year long with Dr. Aaron Bromage, Associate Professor of Biology at UMass Dartmouth, who specializes in infectious diseases. He simplified the contagious nature of the Delta variant during the summer.
So we're looking at one person infecting 6, and why that matters is 1 infects 6. Those 6 infect 6, so we're up to 36. And then those 6 infect, and those 36 infect another 36, and it gets really big really quick. That's why we're seeing Delta move through the community much faster, even though we have high vaccination rates.
He also joined us earlier this month as we began to learn more about Omicron.
It's almost certainly as transmissible as Delta. Whether it causes severe disease, it's hard to tell because it's hitting a population with a lot of immunity. Early anecdotes were saying it was much milder, and that would be fantastic. But if you had prior immunity to a previous infection and you get infected again, we would expect there to be milder disease. So what we really need to look at is when it hits populations of, say, unvaccinated people or people with waning immunity, what does it do there? So we will know about that quickly. We are seeing a rise in hospitalization that is mirroring the infections going up. So I tend to think it's going to be roughly the same as Delta.
As we head into the new year, we have made some progress against the pandemic, but the winter surge we're currently experiencing will definitely test our level of resolve. Through it all, the residents of the city remain vigilant.
People have really been great, and they've done on their own, without Paul Coogan, without Keith, they've done a great job on their own. They've tackled so many things to bring us out of this nightmare. That they've stepped up themselves. I mean, you go by the food pantry, whether it's St. Anne's or the YMCA, and there's people lined up. There's volunteers on top of volunteers trying to help. So I think the people have been great.
The federal corruption trial of former Fall River Mayor Jaziel Correa took place over 3 weeks in April and May. On May 14th, the jury found the former mayor guilty on 21 of 24 counts of defrauding investors in his Snow Owl app business and extorting funds from potential local marijuana vendors in exchange for a favorable recommendation to state regulators. After the trial, the former mayor continued to proclaim his innocence.
Unfortunately, the justice system failed us today, but our fight's not over. I have a very strong family, very strong friends, and I'm a very strong person. So I just thank everybody out there that's been praying for us. I thank God for the comfort that he's given us every single day during this trial. And we're not done. This is just not a great day, but I've had other not great days, and everybody here knows that's watched this unfold. But we're going to have a great day of vindication, and eventually the real truth will come out. There were no facts that were brought forward. There was no overwhelming evidence. Unfortunately, there was a couple things that didn't go our way that were technical today. And that's what will be our grounds for appeal. And we'll win that appeal, and I will be vindicated, and my future will be very long and great. So
why didn't you testify?
I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
On the other side, prosecutors were convinced that justice was served.
Correa made a lot of promises, a lot of bold statements in business, in politics, and in government. The jury found today in its verdict the truth. He defrauded investors, lied on his taxes, and extorted hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes as mayor of Fall River. In business, he promoted himself as a successful app developer. Not quite. As the jury found today, the truth is that he went to people who trusted him, who believed in him, and he took their investments for an app, but he used the money mostly for himself, for romantic getaways, for casinos, cars, adult entertainment, sex toys. Appalling. He even used some of the money to fund his mayoral campaign in Fall River. And in politics and government, he promoted himself as the man with honest answers for Fall River. But in the end, he sold his office. He extorted bribes from people who wanted to open marijuana dispensaries in his city. He sold his office, and he sold out the people of Fall River. That is illegal.
It wasn't until September that Correa would be sentenced on his convictions. U.S. District Court Judge Douglas Woodlock took issue with some of the Snow Owl convictions, saying the prosecution did not thoroughly prove its case. He threw out 10 convictions in that part of the case. On the other 11 convictions, Judge Woodlock sentenced Correa to serve 6 years in prison and 3 years of supervised probation. He's also responsible to pay restitution to the Snow Owl investors and forfeit over $566,000 to the court. He's scheduled to self-report to prison on January 10th. Local attorney Stephen Sabra joined us for analysis throughout the trial and sentencing. He says there are differing opinions as to how people view Correa's sentence.
I think most people will feel that 6 years wasn't enough, and that could be general public seems to often want more. And that's really what the judge has to do. They have to come up with their own their own sense of what's a fair sentence. But I think that's the general that will be the general feeling. But in response to that, I would say it's, it's 6 years incarcerated, but there's also 3 years of supervised release. And like one of the defense attorneys said in their sentencing memorandum, probation isn't nothing. So you've really got 9 years there.
Correa has appealed his convictions before the First Circuit Court of Appeals. It's unlikely any judgment on the appeal will come before spring. Some of the co-defendants in the case also learned of their fate this year. Antonio Costa and Hildegard Camara were given no jail time but probation for their guilty pleas. Co-conspirator David Hebert will be sentenced after the new year. Former Correa Chief of Staff Genevieve Andrade also pled guilty in the case, but Judge Woodlock did not accept her plea deal at sentencing. Her trial on extortion and bribery was to begin earlier this month. During jury selection, one of the prosecution's witnesses tested positive for COVID-19, and the trial has now been postponed to March. 2021 was a local election year in Fall River, and for the second election cycle, the number of candidates running for mayor, city council, and school committee were well below years past. In the race for mayor, 4 candidates qualified for the ballot, making that the only race that would require a preliminary runoff. We knew that Mayor Paul Coogan would run for a second term, but we were unsure of any challengers. Newcomer Jonathan Albernaz and Michael Vandal declared early in the process. Throughout 2021, we saw a strained relationship between Mayor Coogan and some members of the city council. Much of the disagreement centered around city finances. That led to City Council President Cliff Ponte joining the mayor's race in early July, pledging to work on behalf of the taxpayer.
We will have a vision. We will have a plan. And we will look out for the best interests of Fall River and its taxpayers. I pledge to be your mayor, a mayor of the people. I will walk the neighborhoods, I will visit the businesses, I will open the door for Fall River for all its people, and not just the special interest groups.
During his re-election kickoff, Mayor Coogan criticized the council for blocking his initiatives for political gain while touting his leadership through the pandemic.
Fall River right now is in a very, very good place. Financially, we are as solid as a rock. We are going to take this ARPA money and build Fall River into a place that people want to call home. Residents are moving back to the city now. People are buying houses. House prices are going up. And I know that's restrictive to some people sometime, but it's also a good thing for all of our homeowners.
Coogan and Ponte easily advanced from the preliminary election, and in the general campaign, Ponte accused the administration of not being truthful about a budget deficit for this year and the possibility of taxpayers contributing sooner to pay for the new BMC Durfee High School.
I've been speaking about a budget deficit because we have one. My opponent, Will, doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that we have a deficit. What I'm going to do is the last resort. The last resort is going to be to go to the debt exclusion. My opponent has already acknowledged that he's going to go to the debt exclusion already, which means your taxes are going to triple. And that is irresponsible. I'm the only one in this race that has been talking about reducing fees and providing relief to the taxpayers.
The mayor replied that the city is in strong financial shape and questioned Councilor Ponte's dedication to the job.
He still talks about the budget, which I cannot believe he's still on that because he woefully dropped his responsibilities there by not doing anything within the 45-day window. He's still running from his memo that he sent to the voters about how he wanted to work on the eviction market and, be a part-time mayor. That's not what Fall River needs. We need someone here that's going to bring stability, honesty, and integrity and full-time services to the residents. And that's what I'm going to do. That's the difference with myself and Councilor Pont.
On Election Day, the voters decided now was not the time for a change, with Mayor Coogan earning a second term in office, winning over 60% of the vote over Councilor Ponte.
The city of Fall River spoke very, very clearly and loudly tonight that you can take every negative thing you want to say. You can spin it, lift it up, kick it sideways, send it around. The city of Fall River rejects this kind of campaigning all the time. When you hear this stuff, if you can walk through it and keep going forward and keep your eye on the prize, making Fall River a better place to live, then all that noise just is like in the rearview mirror. It just goes away. It goes away, and we don't need it.
I entered this race in early July, and I knew that I was going up against a very popular mayor, a likable mayor, somebody who was successful as an educator. I knew that. But I decided to enter this race because I felt that I could do a better job. Now, ultimately, that responsibility falls on the residents of this community to determine whether they think I'm the one who could do a better job, and tonight just wasn't our night. But tonight isn't over for me. I want you guys to know that. This isn't the end of Cliff Ponte running for political office. What this is the start of what I call something special.
18 candidates qualified for the ballot for City Council, and it was a good year for the incumbents. 7 of the 8 incumbents were re-elected, with Councilor Christopher Peckham, the lone councilor, not earning another term. Joining the 7 incumbents will be former Councilor Joseph Camara and newcomer Andrew Raposo, who's looking to work collaboratively with his new colleagues.
It goes back to what I've said the entire campaign, building unity and team collaboration between the City Council and the administration. I have spoken to a few of them already over the last night and tonight, and the message has been the same. Let's build a team together. Let's move the city forward. I think right now the budget is definitely something that we need to address because that's going to drive everything else. Public safety, education, transportation. We need to get the budget squared away.
Only 10 candidates were on the ballot for school committee. Entering the campaign, there was a guarantee of at least 3 new voices on the panel, as incumbents Mark Costa, Thomas Corey, and Joshua Hetzler chose not to seek re-election. In the end, the 3 incumbents in the race, Kevin Aguiar, Paul Hart, and Mimi Larrabee, finished at the top of the polling and will be joined by newcomers Shelley Pereira, Sarah Rodrigues, and Bobby Bailey. Ms. Rodrigues wants to bring a holistic approach to her work.
I really hope to push for a healthier community in general. And I think what we've got to do is look at the schools as one piece of the work that we do with our kids and our families, but then really look at the other community organizations as the other pieces, because our kids are only in school for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. What happens the rest of the time? So I'd love to be able to build those bridges and create a more cohesive nature about the way that we do things here. I would really love to push a heavier focus on our special education department. I feel like our kids often get sidelined, and so I'd like to spend some time really looking at the work that we're doing within special education and work towards creating a more inclusive community for all of our kids.
All those elected in November will get right to work following their inauguration in January. We'll have more of our look back at the top news stories of 2021 right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Mass Hire Fall River Career Center. Oral and maxillofacial surgeon. Dental Surgeons of Fall River, located at 180 Ellsbury Street, seeks a full-time oral and maxillofacial surgeon to perform surgeries and treat a range of conditions affecting the hard and soft tissues of the face, mouth, jaws, and neck. Job number 159-73666. Sales Associate. Dorothy Cox Chocolates, located at 100 Griffin Street, is looking for a full-time sales associate to greet and assist customers with purchases at the candy store. Job number 159-61142. Service Maintenance Technician. The Community Builders Incorporated, located at 219 5th Street, is in need of a full-time service maintenance technician, responsible for responding to all service requests, apartment turnover preparation, and maintenance of the property. Job number 160-02025. Store Manager. Aldi, located at 485 William S. Canning Boulevard, is looking for a full-time store manager. For more information, call 855-955-2534. The Fall River Public School Department, located at 417 Rock Street, has an immediate need for the following full and part-time positions. ESL Inclusion Teacher, job number 160-02732. Speech Language Pathologist, job number 160-02728. For more information about these or other positions, visit MassHire JobQuest at jobquest.dcs.eol.mass.gov or call the MassHire Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome to our look back at some of the top stories in Fall River for 2021. The Fall River School Committee had to spend much of its time this year dealing with an issue that was outside of the classroom. Late in 2020, allegations of inappropriate behavior were lodged against Superintendent Matthew Malone. In early January, following a cursory investigation, the school committee, by a 4-2 vote, decided to retain the superintendent but cut his pay. School committee member Kevin Aguiar was one of those who voted against keeping Malone.
The school committee received multiple complaints in early September. At the time, it was my opinion, and it continues to be my opinion today, that we owed it to our more than 1,600 employees to follow standard operating procedures on how to proceed in these situations. The procedures we have followed in the Fall River Public Schools in the past have been to place the employee on paid leave pending an investigation. That would include hearing directly from individuals on both sides of the complaint in order to fully determine the scope of the issues and to determine an appropriate action. A due process hearing would have been held and a disciplinary decision could be made. Unfortunately, the votes were not there for that, to have a hearing and to hear from our employees directly. Here we are 4 months later. I'm disheartened by this situation. I'm disappointed in the judgment shown by the superintendent, and I cannot support this amended contract language as the consequence.
Mayor Coogan did not take part in the deliberations, citing a conflict of interest opinion by the State Ethics Commission in relation to his brother working as Human Resources Director. Pressure to take action against Malone intensified through March, when the superintendent was evaluated on his job performance. Mayor Coogan did weigh in on the superintendent's evaluation.
I speak from the heart on this because I really believe that this was a situation that got out of control extremely rapidly, and it led to a lot of poor feelings across the district, not just on this school committee, but for our staff and our administrators and even our families. We hopefully can move on from this, but I can only express my disappointment in the behavior of the superintendent as strongly as possible. I do wish I had been allowed to participate, but I don't know if it would have changed the outcome.
At that meeting, Malone said he had learned from his mistakes.
I'm going to continue to do the work that needs to be done with your blessing and your guidance and governance, which we do. And I feel strongly that the feedback, I think I've definitely taken consideration in terms of my role, my ownership of what I've done in terms of disrupting the good order of the district. And I've made improvements in those areas and will continue to do so. So as far as I'm concerned, we got a lot of work to do. We got to get into doing it. And I think the committee's got to keep working like a committee. And hopefully that happens over the next few months, and that we have a solid 7 really making decisions that drive the best interest for kids.
Malone continued to serve as superintendent until an agreement was reached with the committee in June that called for him to leave his post on July 1st, but continued to be paid until November. Committee member Tom Corey supported Malone until the end.
And in 5 years, we've had no grievances with teachers. And through the pandemic, we managed to keep all of our employees whole. The reasons why that all happened is because of the strength of this committee, but also the strength of the decision-making and planning of the administration, which I always thought was very top-notch strategically.
Malone was replaced on an interim basis by Assistant Superintendent Maria Ponce.
Thank you for entrusting the district onto me. I look forward to continuing my service. We have 10,000 plus students, 1,800 plus employees that are looking forward to beginning a new year, and we have an awesome team that's ready to prepare and plan for opening. So I appreciate your vote of confidence, and I look forward to continue my service.
The school department was also cited for its failures surrounding the death of 14-year-old David Almond. In October 2020, the autistic teen was found unresponsive at his father's home in Fall River. David's brother Michael was also in the apartment suffering from neglect. Michael survived, but David died soon after being discovered. David's father, John Almond, and his girlfriend, Jacqueline Coleman, have been charged in David's death. The case prompted an investigation by the Massachusetts Child Advocate into failings within the child welfare and local governmental systems. Child Advocate Maria Masades said the Almond case was the result of a multi-system failure, led by mistakes by the Department of Children and Families and a lack of support from the Fall River School Department.
There is no question that the story we have laid before the public in this report is an extraordinary failure of our system. There is no question that COVID-19 complicated an already complex situation, but there is also no question that we can do better. The Fall River Public Schools failed to provide David and Michael with a free and appropriate public education between March of 2020 and David's death in October of 2020, because neither David nor Michael received any academic instruction or related special education services. The failure of the Fall River Public Schools to provide David and Michael with the education they were entitled to is a direct result of the complexities of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The school department has devised a series of trainings to ensure greater oversight and reporting to identify students who may be experiencing difficulties at home. Also across the district this year, the new BMC Durfee High School opened its doors to students in early September.
Well, the kids are loving what they see. They're learning their way around the building. We had 2 great orientation days. Today we've got all students in, and it's going to be amazing to see what this looks like with 2,300 students. They love the space, they love the light, they love that it's clean, that it's airy, they love the technology. I've got nothing but positive feedback from the students. It's very big, they're doing a lot of walking, but that's okay too, a little fitness built into the day. As you walk this building, it's a simple structure in that the wayfinding is very, very linear, and there's signage all over the place, and we have all staff on deck in the corridors all day, make sure kids get where they're going.
The opening of the new school did not come without hiccups, as traffic became a major concern for student drop-off and pickup along Ellsbury Street. Those issues should begin to get alleviated once the old school is demolished. And as we head into 2022, we'll see progress on funding for a new Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School on Stonehaven Road. The Fall River Police Department had its share of negative press in 2021. Incidents of violent crime and shootings are on the rise across the city compared to a year ago. Chief Jeffrey Cardoza said it's difficult to solve shooting cases when there is little support from city residents.
One of the biggest frustrations, Keith, is the lack of cooperation. It's unlike I've ever seen, and the detectives have ever seen, and the officers have ever seen it. Right from the get-go, people that have sustained gunshot wounds or been even a victim of a violent crime just have this attitude of they're just not going to cooperate with the police, and they'll tell you, they'll look at you and say, I know who shot me, or I know who robbed me, but I'm just not going to provide that information.
Overall crime in the city is slightly above 2020 levels. The chief said an increase in violent crime, combined with staff shortages caused by retirements, has negatively impacted rank and file officers.
The morale's not the best right now. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think not only what law enforcement agencies have gone through and what officers have to deal with on the street, but here in Fall River, because our complement has been down, because we've had difficulty filling academy spots, we're ordering officers into work on their days off, and this occurs almost on a daily basis in the uniform division, and I'm so proud of the men and women down there, because they work so hard And it's not uncommon for officers to be ordered, miss their days off and go into a whole nother work week.
In May, 2 men were killed, one a 14-year-old teen near Griffin Park in the city's Corky Row neighborhood. Another man was also shot but recovered. 2 men have been arrested in relation to that case. The double homicide shook the neighborhood, and a community meeting was held less than a week later. Chief Cardoza said more police patrols would be conducted in the area, and all shootings are being treated as homicides, even if no one is killed. But the broader issue at the meeting was not crime, but the circumstances in which city youth currently live.
I'm standing in the Corky Row area right now, and everyone's saying they need more beat police, more police walking, more police, but these are kids. At what point do they turn into murderers or victims? So I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves, even when we're talking about creating programming and events and things of that nature. How do we solve the real issue, right? Development and making sure that these kids are in the right places, or if you see kids outside playing, you catch them, at 10 years old instead of catching them at 18 or 24 when it's too late.
A local convenience store owner was shot and killed during a robbery attempt in October, the city's 3rd homicide victim of the year. And a city man was killed in November following an altercation with police. Officers within the apartment were also entangled in other controversies this year. There were allegations of officers using excessive force and others who mishandled drug evidence, putting the prosecution of cases at risk. The culmination of all of this took a toll on Chief Cardoza, who announced earlier this month that he'd be taking a leave of absence for health reasons with a plan to retire in March. Captain Paul Garvin has been appointed acting chief, with a search process for a new chief to begin in the new year. Mayor Paul Coogan will also need to fill other posts in his administration, as the office is currently without a full-time city administrator and chief financial officer. Fall River welcomed a new congressman in January as Jake Auchincloss took over in the 4th District. He was on the job for 4 days when he was in the midst of the insurrection at the Capitol on January 6th.
This is Representative Jake Auchincloss. I'm with my staff in the Longworth office building. We are sheltering in place. Because of physical distancing requirements, I was not on the House floor at the time of the altercations with protesters. But I want to underscore to everyone in the Massachusetts 4th that I am more resolved than ever that when these proceedings resume, we will certify the Electoral College results that will make Joe Biden and Kamala Harris the 46th President and Vice President of the United States. This is a dark day for our democracy, and it may delay or disrupt these proceedings, but it is not going to stop us from upholding and defending the Constitution of the United States.
The future of Fall River's congressional representation played out in the fall as the state legislature debated a new redistricting map from the 2020 census. There was consensus that the city be represented by 1 congressman after being split between Auchincloss's 4th district and Bill Keating's 9th district. Both congressmen were looking to represent the city, with Keating arguing Fall River would be best served in a district along with New Bedford.
I think having Fall River be the biggest city in the Massachusetts 4th and having its needs be defined by itself as a city, rather than as part of a, subsumed into a larger regional issue where there are competing economic interests, is going to serve Fall River very well, regardless of who the representative is from the Massachusetts 4th.
This isn't about me. It's not about any particular congressperson. This is a 10-year plan. This is a plan for a decade. And during that decade, instead of having the 2 cities together, where it would be a strong point of influence in any congressional district, what you will have is a split of those anchor communities. And there'll be about 1/8 of those communities in terms of their influence.
The city's waterfront is in a prime position to see growth in both activity and economic development. In May, the city began welcoming visitors to its replica Vietnam War Memorial at Bicentennial Park.
I can't help but think about who these real people on the wall are, because they really were real people. Who they could have become, we'll never know, but we can honor them. It's the honor of those people and its families that left behind on this monument, and that's why it exists.
Some might wonder why we build these monuments, all of the ones I talked about down on the National Mall and the ones here. Why you built this bicentennial park, and why this wall? Well, quite simply, because you care, because you do not forget, you remember, because you truly understand the sacrifices that were made, and because you're all from Fall River.
Also this year, Fall River began construction at the city pier, which will provide open space for additional waterfront recreation.
This has been a long time project. We all remember when there was a bar out on the end of it, and that's all that was down here for the longest time. And finally, to have this turn into a place where families can take a walk. I know Pat Norton's got his eye on having Woodstock 3 out here. And we're gonna turn this into a place where people want to come, they want to spend some time, they want to enjoy the water view, and it's going to be an integral part of our waterfront from Mike Lund's property all the way up to the Commonwealth Landing.
We should also see progress this coming year on plans to renovate and depress Route 79.
And I think this is something that the city has been undertaking for many years now, is the planning for this, and it's taken a while, but it's gotten to a point now where they see an opportunity and there will be a potential for future development along this corridor, along the waterfront area, with the consolidating and the condensing of the State Highway and Route 79 and Duval Street. So I think there's approximately 19 acres that are going to be created as a result of this, including a number of acres of open space as well. So there's certainly an opportunity here with the coming of the South Coast Rail Station within the project corridor, that we're bringing all the various modes of transportation into this particular area for the future.
If you visited Government Center since the fall, you may have caught a glimpse of a stainless steel sculpture adorning the southwest corner of the building, celebrating the city's history through diversity.
Fall River is really diverse, and I first thought about just doing it about workers and immigrants, and he said, don't forget, indigenous people were the first people, and they're based from here, like Massasoit is right across in Mount Hope, which is within eyesight of here. So I really looked into it, and then we talked later about the fact that the people didn't choose to come as slaves, so I used in the quote, enslaved, so to the enduring memory of our ancestors, indigenous peoples, then immigrants, the enslaved, and refugees. And then we go on to talk about the future. May we, their descendants, together with newcomers, help build a more just and peaceful community. So this is, first thinking about the past and then looking to the future.
Bristol Community College class of 2021 valedictorian Catherine Haley shared a heartwarming story of overcoming drug addiction to graduate college. And through Glamour magazine, she was able to experience a famous virtual run-in.
Congratulations! You have been named one of Glamour's College Women of the Year.
I literally love you.
The city lost an icon this summer with the passing of low-priced Lenny Kaplan, the longtime owner of the Gob Shops and creator of the international Miss Senior Sweetheart pageant. Lenny went everywhere with his famous kazoo and his passion to aid and entertain.
I'm looking over the bridge that crosses over from Fall River to Somerset. It leads you over to one nut of a guy who's always got that gleam in his eye. Oh, they call me low price, a name that's just right, 'cause I'm the guy almost gives away all the stuff at Gob Shops and Weston Auto. At least a free smile every day. Once more. Now I'm going to play it backwards. At least a free smile every day. At least a free smile. Dum bum. Yeah.
We'll wrap up this special edition of FRC Media News right after this.
Hi, welcome to Hot Dogs and Cool Cats. Today with us we have MJ. She is a female. She's roughly about 8 years old. She does get along with other cats. She did previously live with a few other cats. She's very, very friendly. She loves attention. When you come in a room, she'll greet you. The only thing is that she's probably not too content of being held and walked around with, but if you are sitting down, she'll jump right on your lap, and she'll make a good little TV buddy if you just want to sit down and watch TV. Because she's a little bit older, she'd probably do well in probably a quieter home. And when it comes to kids, I'd probably say about 12 years and up, just for her benefit. We are located at 300 Linwood Street. We also have more of our information on the foreverpaws.com website. I know MJ would love to meet you.
Today we got Pascal. He's our 13-week-old husky. He's very, very much has that puppy love energy. With him being a puppy, he will nip and bite, but there are tricks to be able to train him out of it, so when he gets older, he won't be doing that as often. With him, we ask that if you have kids, they be 12 years and older. He's a very happy-go-lucky puppy. As you can see, he's very inquisitive. So with him being a puppy, we do suggest training for the basic commands and other things too. We would ask that you do crate training when you're not home or while at your house. All right, so if you want to meet Pascal, come on down to 300 Linwood Street in Fall River and set up an appointment to meet this little fella.
So now that we've looked back on some of the stories in 2021, what can we expect in 2022? There's no doubt that COVID-19 will still be a lingering part of our lives. Mayor Coogan and a new city council and school committee will be inaugurated on January 3rd, with plenty of difficult decisions to be made. We will likely see a new school superintendent and police chief next year. We will undoubtedly continue to follow the federal cases against former Mayor Jaziel Correa and his co-defendants, and state residents will be looking forward to a heated governor's race now that Governor Charlie Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito will not seek a third term. I want to thank our FRC Media staff for going above and beyond again this year, and I also want to thank you for your continued support of FRC Media. We'll be back with a new edition of the show on January 6th. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2022.